one has to realize, to go back to the historical aspect, that we took it for granted that you were born in a free world and you will live until the end of your day in a free world. That is not something granted. Few people through history have lived like that. Hello everyone, in this video I just want to ramble on about our cyclic phenomenon in our human collective existence. Being a history buff, and I do read a lot of history, I'm very interested in all sorts of history. I am honest enough to realize and accept that history is never accurate. There's always something that was rewritten, angled to make something look better, something look worse. And any professional historian will accept that fact and realize, you know, some things are just unknown in the end. You can't figure out the details. You can't put your trust and mind upon something which was written by somebody. It's like finding one, say, blog or book from our day and age and kind of departing from that in the future. So every continent, every country, every region has had its golden ages, its dystopias and so on. So there's something cyclic about this. And in our modern world, where we have a good amount of liberties, freedoms, and freedom of thoughts and such, that is kind of being rebranded in a sense. We're getting less freedom, less liberties, and more censorship. So that was not the way of putting us into that kind of modern society, which in its all faults and failures is maybe sort of like the best you can get. Nothing is perfect. So in that society we live in now, we might have some kind of a hubris about being enlightened and being at the end station of something that we know, and we will never kind of be able to deteriorate to a lower point regarding our life standard, our freedoms and such. But that is exactly what is happening, and not just in regards to this whole current situation. That's been happening a lot the last 20 years. So that's a good sign. Another sign is also that when you have governments which are becoming less efficient, offer less for more money. So compare a government or a local government to a company. A small business will become more efficient as time progresses. It will be able to do more with kind of lesser money or the same cash flow. That's the kind of golden standard, I guess, for having an organization of any sort. But governments tend to have a self-fulfilling agenda in itself, in its entity. It's not something that necessarily every part of that government is part of, if you understand, but that's something which is just in the nature of something becoming out of control. So a government in this day and age is doing basically one thing in which it is doing really good, and that is to censor people's thoughts, restrict our liberties, and infringe our privacy. So that is the only thing, if you really think about it, which is becoming like better as time progresses from that which we are part of, a system as taxpayers and so on. And it should be the opposite. So that's a good hint that something is on the wrong path. Now what I'm kind of pondering or just rambling on is that even though we will or might end up in a kind of dystopian society, you know, everybody's chipped, everything is restricted, basically what China has today, and even more so perhaps, even that will come to an end if we look at our human experience from a grander perspective. Just as there is no end to the thriving age, the golden age, I mean that there is an end to it. There's also an end to the dystopian day and age, and that's kind of maybe not that good to think about, because if you live in a dystopia, you know, you won't be able to live in what comes after the dystopian society. But this is all in general terms. But I think that what I'm trying to get is that people are really becoming aware of these things, and you can talk to a barber who is really into some stuff, and people are picking up, and that's why they need the censorship on the internet, if not directly, but like sidekicking stuff and gaslighting any opposing ideas or anything else being put forth, because a government can't afford having large amounts of people being into various sorts of ideas about something which they regard as fundamental. So that's why we need to have this kind of one opinion, one standard. Even if that is wrong, they still need that one thing which kind of encompasses the whole mass of people and makes them easier to not to control those who are into it, but to control those who are outside of that thinking norm. And historically, that is always a sign that things are about to become worse, or things are about to hit the kind of confrontational point. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something violent, but there is, as I said, like either something which will deteriorate, something which will be balkanized, you know, fragmented. And that is something I've been observing by talking to all sorts of people, and kind of trying to reach out and like see what people in other countries are pondering about. And today we have many ideas out there, and that is really something which the government finds dangerous. So for the government, for the status quo, for the whatever powers that be are, they need one line system, you know, a dozen of things which everybody should kind of pick and choose from. But we have hundreds, and that is something which in the end, as I said, creates confrontational points, some kind of fragmentization. Back in the days when all the countries today didn't exist, people had the possibility to create their own country and their own standards. That's how the United States was created. But today we don't have that space to gather, let's say, 50,000 people and start a colony and make a constitution, create some fundamental laws which will be followed through and so on. We don't have that possibility to create something from scratch. We are at that aspect, that is the only thing which today seems to have come to an end, which can't kind of change, and that is the borders, the systems, the countries. So while everything can change to the better, to the worse, we don't have the possibility, and we haven't had it for 200 years, to create a whole new society, a whole new country, or, you know, small regions which might cooperate. We can't do it, and it's dangerous to do that today also, because without the protection and so on, you will be a victim of you know, rich governments, or, you know, big corporations and such, and militarily speaking also. So that puts us in a situation where we kind of have to improve what we already have. We have to kind of stick with that and make the best of that. And if you, like me, live in the modern world, and you are part of that world which has freedoms and liberties so far, and which have been deteriorating for 2 decades, I think everybody can agree upon that. We have to realize that this is something which will go on for a long time, because the process of getting to the place where we enjoyed took time, and now this deterioration, this fragmentation, this battle for opinions, for people's minds, and the control on the individual, that is something that will take time. So if one falls flat to the kind of negative aspect that, you know, it's all gone, it's all lost, like don't mind, everything is, you know, we have passed the tipping point, nothing will get better, then I think that is wrong, because of course it might happen and we might not live with the freedoms we used to have, but maybe 3-4 generations from us they will, and they will honor those people who actually stood up for that. And when I say stand up for something, I don't mean necessarily anything specific, because that is beyond this realm of my car and which I'm rambling on. But that is something which we can do first, starting with ourselves, informing other people. That's just some perspective. Like, there's always this balance or fight with the, you know, yin-yang-ish kind of force, and that's something we have to live with. That is part of nature. So there's no need to be flat negative and bitter, because you're doing nobody a favor. And maybe there's not even much incitement into becoming super radical, because we know when radical takeovers happen, most often it turns out worse than it used to be. So the best thing is to kind of, in my opinion, is to live, embody, and share the values, the life you were granted, which you enjoyed, and which you want to preserve. So with all of this said, stay cool. Just keep going on with whatever you're doing, whatever your trip is, whatever your goal and whatever you fancy in life. Anyway, just to kind of wrap this up, what I'm trying to say is that keep doing what you're doing. If it's a good path for you, do it. If you are thriving, do it. And don't worry, there's a big picture at all times, a bigger, grander aspect to our whole existence, right? And people are more aware than they used to be. Everybody can access information now, even though it's sidetracked and censored. And that's my experience, that more people on, how can I say this, on more unexpected places are more informed that you might have thought they would be. And for me, that's a lovely sign. So that's that. I'm gonna drive on and enjoy a lake and enjoy this Sunday, this beautiful day, clear blue skies. What more can I ask for? So all the best to you people. Take care. Ciao.